When an athlete signs a multi-million-dollar contract, the public sees a mountain of capital, but the structural reality of extreme sudden income is entirely different. The cash enters the accounts, and almost immediately, a massive percentage disappears. Running back Marshawn Lynch navigated this system perfectly. Over his career, he generated nearly $57 million in primary NFL salary, retaining that capital. Then there is Adrian Peterson. Despite career earnings near $100 million, he became trapped in a catastrophic cycle of toxic debt and asset seizures. Two elite earners operating in the exact same economic system achieved exact opposite results. A system designed to pay out tens of millions annually is routinely producing total bankruptcy. The math governing wealth preservation for the top 1% is ruthless. It requires surviving immediate tax attrition, avoiding the trap of negative debt, and aggressively capturing positive market yields. Before we break down the exact math, subscribe to the USA Rift channel, hit the like button, leave a comment, and become a channel member. We are going to deconstruct a real NFL pay stub line by line, reverse engineer the specific loan that crippled a superstar, and map the exact mathematics of generational wealth. Publicly reported gross income is a vanity metric. Surviving the structural attrition of that income is the hidden filter dividing those who look wealthy from those who actually hold wealth. San Francisco 49ers defensive end Eric Armstead publicly shared the primary data from one of his game checks. The gross amount for a single week of work was $393,055. That number never hits a bank account. By the time the check clears, exactly 49.3% of the capital is gone. This cascading waterfall chart breaks down that attrition. From the top-line gross, the first removal is the state and jock tax levied against the player. The jock tax is a complex system where professional athletes are taxed by almost every individual state where they physically play a game. Next, the highest bracket of the federal tax code takes the largest single slice from the remaining capital. Finally, mandatory agent fees and administrative costs are subtracted. At the bottom of the waterfall, Armstead is left with exactly 50.7% of his original check. Former quarterback Cam Newton highlighted this exact mechanism when analyzing Adrian Peterson's debt. He noted that ignoring state and federal tax liabilities is a primary driver of financial ruin. In his words, these taxes will have to get paid with or without you understanding it. That's how you get in debt. High earners frequently use their publicly reported gross contract numbers to secure massive lifestyle loans. Often, they borrow against money they do not actually possess, committing to debt payments before the tax attrition occurs. Marginal tax rates dictate the percentage paid on the last dollar earned, but the effective tax rate is the actual percentage of total income surrendered. Failing to understand the difference between these two rates guarantees insolvency. Once a high earner survives that 50% attrition, their financial survival depends on the exponential fate of the net income. NFL defensive end Carl Nassib explained this exact principle during a locker room presentation captured on HBO's Hard Knocks. Nassib presented his teammates with a specific mathematical premise. If they invested $10,000 intelligently, it would become $640,000. He was relying on the rule of 72. Derived from the natural logarithm of 2, this formula determines exactly how many years it takes for an investment to double at a given fixed annual rate of interest. You divide 72 by your expected return rate. This graph plots the timeline. Assuming a 10% return in the broader market, the capital doubles every 7.2 years. The original $10,000 hits $20,000, then $40,000, and reaches $80,000 after 21.6 years. Over the next 3 doublings, the exponential curve takes over, climbing to $160,000, then $320,000, and finally reaching the Nassib's $640,000 mark at the 43.2-year point. But Nassib immediately followed this math with a warning about financial advisors who charge a standard 1% management fee. This chart plots 2 diverging compound curves over a 43-year period. The top curve assumes a full 10% return. The bottom curve illustrates the drag effect. By subtracting just a 1% advisor fee, the return drops to 9%, suppressing the trajectory of the entire curve. That single percentage point does not simply cost a few $100s. Over 4 decades of compounding, That 1% drag eliminates hundreds of thousands of dollars from the terminal value of the portfolio. Capturing the long tail of positive compounding requires a violent defense of your yield. Standard fee structures strip away the apex of the exponential curve. The compound interest formula is entirely agnostic. When applied to debt, it creates a catastrophic inverse, where the accelerating curve works against the borrower. Adrian Peterson experienced this exact mathematical phenomenon. In 2016, he secured a loan from a Pennsylvania lender for $5.2 million. When a high principal loan enters default, aggressive penalty interest rates trigger immediately. As legal actions commence, capitalized attorney fees are added directly to the principal, forcing the borrower to pay interest on their own legal penalties. This timeline graph maps that compounding failure. By 2021, the original $5.2 million principal had ballooned into an $8.3 million legal judgment. The curve continued to steepen. Recent court orders from a Houston judge indicate that with compounding interest and extended legal fees, the debt has spiked again to an estimated $12.5 million today. Reverse engineering this trajectory reveals an exorbitant annual growth rate driving the debt cycle. The interest is compounding faster than any traditional asset portfolio could possibly yield. Cam Newton publicly criticized the origin of this specific debt, noting reports that Peterson initially borrowed the millions to finance non-appreciating liabilities, specifically an extravagant birthday party. High-interest default debt mathematically outpaces standard market returns. Once an earner enters this cycle, mathematical insolvency is practically guaranteed. Surviving these mathematical realities requires strict behavioral cash flow structures. The math must be actively managed to prevent collapse. Marshawn Lynch implemented an extreme version of this defense. Throughout his career, he claimed to have never spent a single dollar of his $56.7 million NFL salary. This flowchart visualizes his strategy. Lynch funded his entire lifestyle exclusively through secondary income streams, like endorsements and media appearances. His primary contract capital was routed directly into investments, creating an impenetrable structural firewall. The standard alternative is the systemic failure model. Primary income flows directly to massive fixed expenses. When a player's brief earning window closes, the cash flow suddenly halts, and toxic high-interest bridge loans fill the void to maintain the lifestyle. When that pipeline eventually leads to total insolvency, the ensuing desperation often pushes individuals toward illicit behavior to maintain liquidity. Former running back Clinton Portis recently self-surrendered to federal authorities after being sentenced for his role in a multi-million-dollar nationwide healthcare fraud scheme. Portis was part of an extensive network of former players defrauding an NFLPA healthcare program. This scheme was a predictable, systemic symptom of the mathematical traps these players fell into. Astronomical fixed lifestyle costs, combined with a sudden drop to zero guaranteed cash flow, force catastrophic decisions. The fraud is a direct response to a mathematical collapse. Gross income dictates only the potential for wealth. True generational wealth is strictly determined by tax efficiency, disciplined cash flow management, and ensuring that exponential compounding is always working for you, rather than against you. To understand more of the math behind the headlines, subscribe to USA Rift. Hit the like button, leave a comment below with your thoughts on the Rule of 72, and become a channel member today.